Hi everyone, today we will be doing the problem conductor from POI round 2 day 1. In the problem it is given that there is a conductor on a train. There are m stops along his route conveniently numbered from 1 to m. There are passengers who may enter or leave the train at every stop. Now the conductor has determined n popular segments of his route. Each segment is denoted by a pair AI to BI, where AI is the stop where the passengers enter the train and BI is the number of the stop where they leave the train. Now the conductor would like to inspect the tickets the minimum number of time while ensuring that everyone traveling along one of these n segments will have their ticket inspected at least once. He also wants to know in how many ways he can alter the inspection times. So effectively what the problem asks us to do is that we are given n such ranges ai, bi, where ai and bi are between 1 and m. Now we have to identify some points. We say that a point covers a range if that point lies between the endpoints of the range. For example, in this range 1 to 4, our point, if it lies between 2 and 3, then it covers this 1 to 4 range. However, if it lied between 4 and 5, then it would not have covered the 1 to 4 range. Similarly, for this range 2 to 7, both the points 2, both the points between 2 and 3 and 6 and 7 cover that particular range. That is not a problem. This point between 6 and 7 also covers this range 6 to 8, and finally there is this range 9 to 10, which is covered by the point between 9 and 10. Essentially what we have to do is minimize the number of points and also report in how many ways we can place these points so that we are always attaining the minimum number of points for covering all the ranges. So for example, here we could have placed a point after 2, 6, 9. So this one. We could have placed a point after 2, 7, 9. We could have placed after 3, 6, 9, and so on. So overall there can be 5 such distributions possible, which all result to 3 points being used. Note that we cannot effectively do this task using just 2 points. Now let's try to make some observations for this problem. Let's say there is a segment like this, there is a segment here, there is a segment here, another segment here, and another segment here. So whenever we deal with such ranges, the first thing that we should think about is whether these ranges are overlapping or intersecting or completely disjoint. So for example, in this problem we are given that the ranges can be overlapping, can be completely overlapping, can be partially intersecting, and so on. So there can be ranges like this, there can be ranges like this, and there can also be ranges like this. So these are the 3 important scenarios for us. Let's try to look at them one by one. So first things first, what is a seemingly normal greedy strategy? We always want to cover as many ranges as possible using a single point. This seems to be true. However, even if we look at the example that is given here, look at this last one, 169. Here we are placing the first point here between 1 and 2. That means we are explicitly ignoring our assumption that we might want to place the points where we can cover the maximum number of ranges, because that will be 2 and 3. But here if we are placing the point at 1, we are only just covering this first range. So does this work? It does not seem so, right? Well, anyway, let's just keep it here and try to dissect the 3 cases that we had formed over the ranges. So let's start by looking at the case 3. What if all the ranges were disjoint? This is an easy case, right? You can place the first point anywhere from here to here, you can place the second point anywhere from here to here, and so on. So it's just a multiplication of the size of the ranges. Now let's look at type 2 ranges. So in this example, we can have a range like this, and then we can have an overhead range like this. If there is a point here, and there must be a point in this zone, because you have to somehow cover the green range, right? So there must be a point here. This also automatically will cover the overhead range. Hence, we can say that this overhead range is redundant. So what we basically got from here is, if there is any such range where one range completely encloses another range, then we can just delete that overhead range. Now, what is the important thing that happens from here? All your ranges are now of type 1 or of type 3. So, step 1, delete all overhead ranges. What we are left with is this. Now, let's try to solve this problem. Now, here again there can be a few cases. One thing might be that we are assuming that at any point there can be only two ranges that cover it. For example, till here, for every point only two ranges are covering it, but this region, three ranges are covering every point in this region, and then again from here outwards at most 2 points might be covering it. Now let's make an observation here. Whenever we have this kind of a situation, we can effectively partition our number line into certain zones. In particular, we can partition it into 2n zones like this. So each zone endpoint is kind of demarcated by a range endpoint. Since a range can have only two endpoints, we have at most 2 into n zones. What is the utility of dividing it into these zones? Every point here is equivalent. Whether you take a point here or you take a point here, it does not really matter. All of them are equivalent. Now, what do we do from here? There can be multiple strategies to deal with this problem that we might try to apply. One can be a greedy strategy, one can be a DP strategy, and there might be something else, something ad hoc. Now, we have to choose as to towards which strategy we want to think about. Greedy strategy seems very tempting because we know that something of this sort might be true. I mean, we have seen that it's not true, but there might be some variations of it. And it seems like a classical problem that how many points do we need to cover a particular range, and that is indeed true. You can just employ this strategy for covering the ranges. That is, we know that for this range there must be at least 1 point covering it, but we place that point at the farthest end possible, and so this also ensures that everything that was on top of it gets covered. So for this we do not need any additional point, so we can just come up to here, and then we can go here, then we can come here. Here we again see that a range is ending which was not initially covered, so we place a point here, and again we place a point here. So this strategy does indeed assure you that you will be using the minimum number of points, but it does not help you calculate the number of such distributions. Trying something ad hoc is a bit hard here, so we will go with our standard approach, that is using some sort of a DP. Note that here application of DP seems even more intuitive because we have already divided our segments into some ranges, and maybe we can do some DP on these ranges. So let's try to look at what kind of a DP we can do. So let's make another observation here. Suppose we have placed a point in this region. Okay, so let's say this is our point that we have placed. We know that the ranges covered by this point is this and this. Now it kind of makes sense to assume that after this chosen point, we do not want to choose a point in a range which only covers again these two lines, because then we are effectively using 2 points to cover the same two lines, or rather same x number of lines. That means one of them is redundant. This violates our initial assumption that we have to use a minimum number of such points for any distribution. That means if we place a point here, in rather not exactly here, what I mean by here is in this zone, because all the points here is equivalent. What we effectively want is that the next point will be at least in some zone which has a new line. In particular, it will be after this zone in this example. It might be here, it might be here, it might be here, or somewhere. That means after we place a point, our next point must be in a zone with at least a new line, rather a new range. So this is the first observation here. Second observation, our next point must cover the next range. So what do I mean by next range? Notice how I have drawn the diagram. Here it kind of intuitively makes sense that we have sorted all the ranges according to their starting points. So let's say I have placed a point here till now. It means that it covers this particular range, it covers this range, it covers this range. The next range is basically the range which has the least starting endpoint after our point that we have placed. So here this is the next range, not this one. This is like the next to next. The next range which has the least starting point which is greater than our current point is this one. So this is what we call our next range. So why is this observation true? Well, our next point cannot be in any zone before this starting point, in any zone before this starting point, because of observation 1, that if it was, then we would be just covering the same ranges again, so that point is redundant. It also cannot be after the ending of the next range, because then this range is not covered by anything. Note that we are placing points in a serial order. We won't be jumping back to place a point here. That means after we are placing a point here, we are only going to look forward to placing points somewhere more to the right. But then this range would not have been covered, which is not allowed. So we are sure that our next point will effectively lie in this region. Notice that I am saying a region and not a zone, because this particular region also has several zones inside it. So it can be here, it can be here, it can be here, anywhere. From these two observations, we can make the following DP. For now, let's just look at what is the minimum number of points that we can place to ensure that we cover all the ranges. We will extend that same DP for calculating the number of such distributions. Let's say the zone where a particular range starts, for example, for this zone, this is the range, is denoted by start zone of a particular range R, and similarly the last zone where it kind of ends is given by end zone. Now dpi, and I is a zone, means we place a point on the ith zone, then minimum number of points needed to cover all the ranges with start point. So this was effectively the AI that we were given in our input, greater than equal to whatever the zone endpoint of I is. So I'll just denote it with I. So that means that if I place a point in this zone, let's say here, then what is the minimum number of points that is needed to cover all the ranges that starts after this zone? So it may have started from this zone, it may have started from this zone, and so on. So everything to the right effectively. So it's just everything to the right. This is how we usually do DP, right? We iterate over some sequence of values and we assume that we have already calculated a prefix or a suffix till that value, and we can update our DP using those values. So what will a DP look like? The DP transition. So DPI equal to 1 plus min j. So j will vary between start zone of R next and end zone of R next. So R next is basically this range that we were talking about, and here we have to just choose dpj. So this transition in this portion, we are effectively looking that where we can put our next point such that everything is still covered and we are using the minimum number of such points, and we add 1 to it because we are placing a point on the ith zone. Now how will we get R next? We will have to pre-compute this information, or we can even just binary search while doing the query. This portion takes order and time in the worst case scenario. So if we spend log n time searching for R next, which we can just do using a lower bound query on an array, that is fine. What is the complexity of this overall solution? We have order and transition, and we have to calculate two end states, or let's say order end states. So complexity for this will be n square. Now start zone R next and end zone R next is a contiguous range, and we are just taking the minimum from that DP. So maybe we can just use some RMQ technique to find the minimum from a range faster than order n. This is possible using segment trees in order log n. So in effect this will reduce to order n log n because we are anyway doing this lower bound. This is admittedly worse than doing a simple greedy to find the minimum number of points, right, using this assumption. But this has a benefit, and we will see why this is better when we try to calculate the number of such possibilities. So we will only need to modify this DP very slightly. How so? We will also store another information, let's call it dp2 of I, which will be number of distributions from ith zone to the end, that is n, using dpi points. So essentially in our problem we were needed to report dpi comma dp2 of I, right? What is the minimum number of points needed? What is the number of distributions from ith zone to n. I mean, there will be a slight variation of this which we will talk about later. So how do we calculate dp2 of I? Well, the only observation required here is we can place the next point in any zone x such that dpx was equal to whatever this minimum was. So let me denote this minimum, this portion, with this constraint as m. Then if dpx equal to m, we could have placed our next point in the zone x. Again, we also have to ensure the constraint that x varies from end zone of our next and uh, between start zone of our next, right? I mean, this obviously needs to be true because of our observation 2 from here. I mean, because of a combination of observation 1 and 2. So how does that proceed? So dp2 of I equal to sum of dpx for all the x's that match this. Now our problem is effectively finding the minimum and then counting for all x which is equal to minimum. So it is somewhat like counting the number of minimums that occur. Now if you are well versed with segment trees, you will know that this is easily doable using a segment tree. How? Well, basically let's say this is the range and these are all the zones. Each zone will have a minimum and a min count. So in our problem, this is the dpi and this is dpi, dp2 of I. What we have to do is first determine m, which is the minimum dpi, and then take sum over all such values where m equal to dpi and sum is over dp2 of I. So essentially, when we make such a segment tree, there are a few things that we should note while making a segment tree. First, what is the data that we should store? So for example, if we just stored this data, it turns out to be sufficient. And second is whether we can merge the data for two contiguous, like two disjoint nodes that are side by side into a larger node that comprises both the nodes. So for example, here if we note the min and min count, and here also if we know the min and min count, if we see that this minimum is lower, then we just set it to this value. If we see that this minimum is lower, then we just set it to this value. And if we see that both the minimums are equal, then we create a new pair m comma, and the count is just the sum of this plus this. So mc1 plus mc2. So essentially here the updates are point updates where we insert a value dpi comma dp2 of I like this, and queries are range queries where we ask for a range from, let's say, this to this, and we can thus answer this query in log n time. This is enough to pass the problem. But instead of implementing a segment tree to do this, we can even make it simpler. This is how. The key observation here is to note that dpi increases as I decreases. So it will be something like 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 3, 4, 4, 4, and so on. As we go towards the left, the minimum number of points needed will always increase, and this is very intuitive. So counting the minimum effectively reduces to counting a contiguous range. Now whenever we have contiguous ranges, we can always think about suffix sums, prefix sums and the sort. Now here, if we know that what range I want to take the sum of, then I can use a suffix sum structure to find the sum of this region. Now how do I know that? Well, let's look at this range. Start Z of the next R and the next end zone of the next region. Start zone of the next region and the end zone of the next region. So let's say this is this segment. Here there is a 3, 3, 3, 4, 4, 5, 5 and so on. Now it is clear that whatever the minimum will be, that is equal to the last value in this region. If we can just find the first value of that same minimum, we can find using a suffix sum structure what is the sum of dp2 of I for all of these i's. How do I do that? Well, it is again just a lower bound query. So we just use STL lower bound. So using this we can entirely bypass the entire segmentary construction. The complexity for this entire code is still we are trying to find the dp states for dp2 I and dp2 of I for n values, or rather to be exact 2n values at most, because we are doing the dp on the number of zones, but we will just consider this as order n. Into what is the transition time? For dpi we are taking a min, for dp2 of I we are taking a sum. We are again doing this using either a segmentary in log n time or this lower bound plus suffix sum in again log n time. So this is still log n. So overall this still remains n log n. Let's quickly look at the code. So here I have implemented a segmentary which counts the min and min count. It stores the two data points. When we are updating, if we are at the leaf node where we want to update, we just set the value to the data that we had passed. Now this portion is actually the combine portion. So let me just rewrite this in a simpler format. So let us make a combine function which basically takes in two such min comma min count pairs. Now if one of the minimums is lesser than the other, it returns that respective pair. If both are same, then the minimum is just whatever it was and the min count becomes the sum of the two min counts. So here I am using pairs. IL means pair of int comma long long. The first value stores the minimum, the second value stores the min count. Now how can I use this combine function here to simplify these three lines? We can just write st node equal to combine st node into 2 plus 1, which is the left child, and st node into 2 plus 2, which is the right child, and we can just comment this out. Similarly here we can just use combine. So this is a min comma min count segmentary. Now here I take the input, then using a stack I delete all the redundant ranges. To do that, this is the algorithm that I follow. I first sort everything based on their starting index. Now notice what is a redundant range. This is a redundant range, right? So I put the ranges into the stack one by one. So now here I have put the first and the last index. Next I encounter this range. I notice that my end index is lesser than the end index of the top range in my stack. So then I know that okay, I started after the top range in the stack. I will end also before the top range in the stack. Therefore the top range in my stack is redundant, therefore kick this out. This is exactly that what we do here. After that we just empty the stack and form a list of all the ranges. Next, we calculate the starting position and ending position of each range. This just means that what is the start zone and the end zone. We also calculate how many numbers are there in each zone. We do this by breaking every range into 2 events and then processing the events using an offline sweep. After that, this is the main calculation of the DP part. So first note that in this commented sections, I have shown what is the brute force way to do that DP, which is effectively how we wrote our pseudocode. Instead of that, I could have also used a segment tree to find the min comma min count and updated our DP values using that. Note that here in this DP I am making use of a pair. So this just means that the first element is DPI as we had written it, and the second element is DP2 of I. So it also stores min comma min count. But a simpler way to do it is as follows. We find what is the minimum that is required. This is always the minimum count required at the end zone of the next segment. We find which was the first occurrence of that minimum using this lower bound operation, and then we use suffix sums to calculate what is the total min count in that region. And then we just update our DP, then we update our suffix sum, and mins of I just stores the minimum at the ith node. Now at the end we are not just outputting DP0 and DP2 of 0, because it is not necessary that the first point must lie in the first zone, but we know that it must cover the first range. Again we have used the same technique as here to calculate the total number of possible ranges with the same minimum, and then we just output them. In this code I have also included the segment tree portion and the DP2 and the naive DP. So this lower bound solution is actually 3 to 4 times faster than the segment tree solution, which is kind of expected because the segment tree stores much more data and the log n has a higher constant factor. So this was the solution for conductor. Hope you enjoyed the problem. That's it for today. Thank you.